This is our Espalier Gravenstein apples that were planted 4 years ago and planted on the west side of our garden here in Acorn Hill. Espalier plant material have always intrigued me and I've always wanted to have them in my garden. This property has this small section. The fence belongs to my neighbor, but this section of the garden was good enough that it has southwest facing and it gets a lot of sun, a lot of heat, and so I figured to highlight this blank white vinyl fence of my neighbor, it would be best for us to put planting around it, right beside it, and give it more interest. Before I get carried away, hi again, it's Louie. Welcome back to Acorn Hill and welcome back to my channel. The mercury here in North Carolina continues to climb. It is hot, it gets sticky and humid, but that's typical of the South, and I hope you all are having a safe, cool, and enjoyable summer 2021. Many who follow me on Facebook have always wondered and asked me questions about the espaliered plants that we have. These are Gravenstein apples, like I said, and I grew them 4 years ago and patterned them and trained them into an espalier. Espaliers are any type of fruit trees or any plant material that we grow along one single plane. What we do is we train the horizontal branches, and from the horizontal branches that come off of the main trunk, we now develop little spurs. And these are what I'd like to discuss in detail in this video. When do we prune them? How do we even create those spurs? What are spurs? And why are they important in keeping and producing fruit off of these plants? As I said earlier, these are Espalier Gravenstein apple trees that I grew 4 years ago. Trained fruit trees are a fantastic way of incorporating fruit into a smaller garden or a wide variety of fruits into a larger garden. Trained against a wall or a fence, these plants can take hardly any room and provide abundant crops. Apart from the apple trees, I am also growing pears, which I've turned into stopover espaliers. These are smaller types of espaliers that are about knee height, and what I've done here is plant a pear per pot. Each of these pear trees are grafted onto a dwarfing rootstock to restrict its vigor, so that means I won't expect them to grow any taller than how they are. Like I said, they are knee height at the moment. Just as a side note, the previous clip was taken 2 months earlier, and 2 months later, this is how the pair of pear trees look like. They have now formed individual branches. Along that horizontal branch on either side, you will get growth coming 6 inches along the length of each horizontal branch. The general effect is now you have individual so-called plants growing and thriving every 6 inches along the length of that horizontal branch on either side of the pear. The individual growth, or the branches, or what I call individual vertical plants, are what we will prune and turn into spurs. And in my experience, the best time to initiate and form spurs from newly planted espaliers is during the summer. So we are going to do what I call my regular routine summer pruning. By pruning in the summer, one can reap the rewards of better and bigger crops from fruit trees and bushes. Removing new summer growth before it turns woody reduces growth-promoting nitrogen, allowing potassium to build up. This is extremely important, and the more potassium we build up, this means more flowers and fruit. So it really makes sense to do this in the summer. Alright, so let's go to the fun part. Let us clear all of these unwanted branches that are growing outward and not completely vertical. Any branch that is coming off of the horizontal branch needs to be pruned, taken down. If they're horizontally or diagonally toward the person, toward the viewer, and toward the back, anything that is getting in the way needs to be cleared and cut off from the main branch and from the horizontal branches. You cut them off just like that. You want to use clean and sharp pruners when you do this to make sure that you don't leave a raggedy and jagged edge to the cut line so that no disease can come into the plant. And pruning out the new excess growth, the aim is to create space that will allow more light and air through the tree. This will in the future help the fruit to ripen. These young plants are vigorous growers. This excess growth that you see only happened within a 2-week period, and that's good because what we're producing here are, like I said, little plants coming off of basically a branch that's been horizontally trained. Alright, now that we have done the horizontal branches nicely trained off of the original vertical trunks of this plant, this pair of outward growth will now be the base for the other vertical branches to grow from. What I'm doing here in this current clip is I am cutting back the side shoots. These are the small verticals that are going upward along each branch back more severely. This means that I'm cutting back to 2 to 3 buds from their base of the current season's leafy growth. I was also very conscious at cutting the branch just above the bud. So far it's pretty straightforward, right? You create vertical growths. These are the shoots that would go upward coming from the horizontal branch. Count 2 to 3 leaf buds, then judiciously cut or prune above the bud. This will encourage the formation of short, very important fruit-producing spurs. And now as you can see, it doesn't even take more than 10 minutes, and now the branches and the little growth that come from the horizontals look very neat. Cutting off the leaves on the vertical branches, we have now stopped the production of more nitrogen, which only gives more greenery to the plant. Instead, by cutting it, we are concentrating hormones that will now produce all the fruits and all the flowers that we need along the spurs, the little stubs, the little trunks that we have cut down to into the next season. What you're looking at on the screen are the small trunks, the small individual plant materials that will now, as it matures between now, which is the height of summer 2021, into the next year, they will now mature and form into mature, woody, stubby, and swollen spurs. As we delve into learning more and more about espaliers, always remember this rule of thumb. Flowers and fruits only are produced on spurs. They are never produced along an actively growing lead where it has that apical dominance, where the tip of the branch is still actively and dynamically growing. No plant can produce flowers and fruits coming off of that lead. As we learned earlier, the more we prune and cut, we remove the production of nitrogen and more growth hormones for flowers and fruits are produced. Alright, the previous clip was 2 weeks ago. This is now the current clip when the previously trimmed and pruned spurs have grown into yet another set of new growth. This is what happens in the summer. The growth is rapid, and no matter how much and how regularly you cut and prune all the little branches, it will continue to produce greenery, which is fine because what we want is for this plant to actively grow. All these light-colored, light green branches have come off of the original previously produced spurs on these plants. As you can see in the clip, I have 2 of them, 2 stopover espaliers that I'm excited to grow in pots right now, but next year we will put them definitely into the landscape. And so I wanted to show you what the difference is in color, the darker brown, darker green part of the branch. That is the original woody spur that we produced back in the previous segment. And what we will do right now, as we know, because active growth is happening, a lot of nitrogen is still within these light-colored leaves and light-colored branches. Nitrogen produces a lot of leaves and we need to control them. This one in front is the newly bent over trunk that I've just done. As you can see, there's a darker branch along the back of this growing plant material. That used to be an original whip that I had bent over, but it died. And so this new branch is coming off of the other plant that I planted right beside the dead one. I hope it's all making sense to you guys. I try to be as descriptive and I try to give you a lot of visual and a lot of explanation along the background as well. But look at this branch in the front. This is the spur. I am pointing out to you the swelling that we want to happen. All that swelling for this current year is being filled with growth hormones, and those growth hormones are what will produce the flower and the fruit next year. And it takes a season to allow these hormones and these branches to mature, to get woody, stubby, and really swollen. And so cutting them regularly throughout the season will give us that mature. Look at the difference here with the light-colored leaf, the light-colored branch. There you go. So that was the previous cut, the 2-week-old cut that we did last time. And all I'm showing you here in close-up is where typically all these new growths will occur right at the spur at the junction of each leaf node. I trained these branches very early on, right around the early spring, late winter time, and I have a video that I will put on the screen and on the description box of this vlog. That way you can see how it all started. I'm very happy because the earlier I did it, the more lateral growth have been produced and have grown coming off of the horizontals that I did back in late winter. And same as 2 weeks ago on this video, what we're doing here is count 2 to 3 leaf nodes, and that's where we will be cutting. We will be pruning above and on top of each leaf node, either the second or the third. So again, it's pretty straightforward. Also good to note, I think it's the second time or third time I'm saying this, make sure that your pruners are sharp and that you have disinfected them. They need to be very clean and don't cross-contaminate them. Don't prune this plant material, go to another plant and then prune it again without cleaning. It needs to be disinfected so we don't get any bacteria or any harmful element entering the plant. Hope you guys learned something new on how to develop and initiate your own Espalier fruit trees. There will be lots more how-to videos coming up. Again, thanks for joining me in this quick video. This is Louie coming to you from Acorn Hill, and we'll see you back here on our channel. Bye-bye for now. Stay safe, everyone.